So thing one is our AI capture really is transformative. We've rebuilt it from the ground up just over the past couple of years based on the latest and greatest technology. And that means that our capture is really, really good and it's extremely hands-off in how you actually use it. There's no templates. You don't have to tell it how or where to look on your invoices. Just start sending them in and they will capture and then gradually improve as time goes on. Our accuracy is really, really good. 99% of those invoices aren't going to require any fundamental modifications to them, and 96% of them are going to be processed instantaneously. So really fast, really effective. Like I said, it learns. That's one of the key attributes of this. And then another key attribute, which lines up with things that we're generally good at, is we do have multi-location capture available, and that does include all the various multi-entity products that you might use in Dynamics GP. Any major browser will be able to access most of the features. You don't need to be a GP user to use our system directly. So if you've got approvers that don't use GP, they can access our system and make their approvals, look up data. And we also support approval out of email. Our integration is really, really, really good. It's written in Dexterity. It integrates directly with GP. You don't need another third party to connect. You don't need any flat file. So key thing one about the way that we have Fidesic set up is we're going to be syncing a lot of the information that you have in GP already, which makes it really, really easy to get started with our system. We're going to be syncing your vendor lists. That's going to include any default GL codes that you have set up, multiple addresses that you have set up. That's all going to sync from our system automatically. We're going to sync your entire chart of accounts, and we're also going to set up an inbox that you can send things into. So most of this stuff, like I said, is just going to take place automatically. Once we get our module installed, we'll start syncing this, and we will start syncing in the background, so you don't have to manage that process to keep our system up to date. Once we've got our module installed into GP itself, it's really a couple of minutes before you can start processing invoices. Let's process an invoice. What you're most likely going to do if you're processing invoices is you're going to send them in via this OCR inbox that we'll create for you. This will be custom to your company. Anything that you sent there is going to be captured. So for most people, they'll set up a Dropbox address that forwards onto this, like your standard AP email that you've got. You can forward things onto this address and everything sent to that will be captured automatically. That's the most common way to do it. But what you can do if you have that file locally, you can just hit submit to Magic Capture here. And that's going to go through and scrape all the information off this invoice and create the digital form of this invoice that is then going to be compatible with GP. I don't have any templates set up for this already. I didn't tell it where to look. I didn't tell it anything. And as you see, we were able to capture all of this information from this address directly. We've got our vendor selected. It didn't just randomly pick a vendor based on like a name. It actually does a lookup based on the addresses and based on what we have available from your GP system. We applied some default coding to this invoice as well. Coding is going to get smarter as time goes on, so we'll get better and better at that. But we can start with the defaults that you already have set up in GP. We've set it up as we captured the amount, we captured the invoice number, the date, the terms. Everything has been captured automatically. This normally is just going to go directly from that email inbox submission that you have set up. So everything sent into that is going to come back to our system in this form, ready for approval. This particular invoice was sent out for approval. I am logged in as the approver on it, so I can see that I've got 2 invoices that require my approval for this account. So if I click here, I can see these 2 invoices that we've got here, one of which is the one that we've submitted. So if I want to get to this invoice detail, I can click in here, and then I'm able to make my approval on this invoice directly. For the vast majority of your users, this is what their interface and experience with Fidesic is going to be like. They'll log in, see that they have a notification icon up here, go to their approval queue, make their approvals, and go about their day. We also support approval out of email, and we can totally customize when and how often and what those approval notification emails look like. So we're super flexible on that front as well. But this is the experience that most users are going to have within the system. They'll log in, review their invoice, either adjust it if they need to make some modifications, so you can modify the invoice. Like I said, in like 96% of cases, that's not something you're going to have to do. And then, of course, they can also approve and void this invoice. So I'll go ahead and approve it as I am the approver. And this invoice is now, because I'm the only approver, is going to have attained an approved status. So if I go to my invoices received and then pull that invoice back up, we can now see that this invoice is approved. We've added our approval notes to it. We've got a full history on it, when it was captured, how it was captured. All of that's going to be visible to you and available for reference. So you can go through and check on the status of any invoices. The people watching this are probably more of the accounts payable type people. So you'll have full access to all the invoices. So what I mean by that is if you want to go look things up in our system, you can go to our Invoices Received tab here, and this is going to have a history of every invoice that's been processed through our system. You can filter this by pretty much anything. You can do quick filters, so if I just want to see things that are currently approved, I can do so, which is the one that we've worked with. If you want to change the date ranges on this, of course, you have the option to do that. We do support credit memos, as you might expect. But this is sort of your one-stop shop to go grab invoice information. So say you want to look up something from a travel company. This will filter based on that, and then we only want things that are an invoice date from this year. Let's say we'll get a list of those, and then you can always export this to Excel quickly. So we build that into every list page that you have here. You can quickly get this data out into Excel. It's kind of a custom report engine. It's not necessary at all to get this info over to GP, but we find that most people like the ability to generate spreadsheets, so we make it easy to generate those custom spreadsheets from our system. If you're looking for something more specific in terms of reports, we've got a whole bunch of reports built into the system, like accrual reports, aging reports, imported invoices reports, payment backup reports, invoice backup reports. These backup reports are going to include the original PDFs as well. Well, it's super helpful in case of audit where you need to provide some information with the original scans of those invoices. So I won't really talk about the workflow a whole lot other than the fact that it is a visual editor, so you can add in rules. We will obviously help you with that process to get you started. We'll help you build that out. But really, it's what you see is what you get. You can build it, modify it. And the important note on this is that there are vacation tools, which allows you to swap users out for people that are either temporarily or having permanent personnel changes. The next step in this process is to actually send it over to GP. So to initiate the import into GP, what you'll need to do is create your batch just like you normally would, and then go select Get Fidesic Vouchers. This is what initiates our custom code. You'll then be asked to authenticate to actually log into the system. And sure enough, we can see our one invoice that we've been processing throughout this whole demo. It's approved. It's ready to export over to GP. This will show you everything that is approved and ready to be sent to GP. Most people do this as like a daily or a weekly type process, depending on your volume. As you can see, I'm only importing one invoice, but in the real world, you'll be able to import as many invoices as you currently have pending. We have people that, create a batch of 500 all at one time, no problem. So I'll import that transaction across. It's already approved. It's already been reviewed. It's already been updated. So normally, if you're just trying to do your job here, you'll just go ahead and post this batch, move on with what you're doing. Because it's a demo, I'll pop it open and show you that we've entered all the information that we had here. We've applied the distributions exactly as we had it set on our end and calculated the pay line that'll go along with that. So everything is pulled across, entered for you. You don't have to hand key anything. We've captured it originally. We got the approval through our web portal and we imported it directly into GP. So we're all good. We can just post this batch now, and it's really just like any other invoice in GP at this point, with the difference being it does have a link back to our portal if you want to look back and get more additional information about it. But that is how seamless our integration to GP is. It's a batch you're already used to using. It's a process you're already used to using. We try to make it easy. So to kick off our payments product, it's going to be hosted in the same portal. The difference is we'll have an entirely separate payment approval process, and we also have a vendor vault where vendors can opt in to receive ACH payments. So you'll see when I get into the demo, we'll initiate that payment batch right in GP. We'll have whatever approval rules that you need, and then we'll assist with the disbursement of that payment to your vendor via either direct ACH or paper check. And we'll also notify the vendor and let them know that they can opt in for ACH. So next time around, it'll be more straightforward. We'll start this payment process off by building a payment batch in GP. This is all stock GP. Whatever you're used to doing, all your filters, that's totally going to stay the same. You will initiate this exactly like you're used to. Pick your checkbook just like you're used to, your batch just like you're used to. The difference is once we've got our batch built, as opposed to either manually generating that notcha file or printing your checks manually and then getting approvals through a manual process, you'll send those payments up to us directly out of this batch, and then we will handle the approval and fulfillment on our end. And we'll see a preview of the payment that we're about to send out. Again, might be multiple if we're in the real world, but we can see that we have this vendor's ACH information on file because it's going to go out in an electronic format. If we wanted to flip it back to paper check for whatever reason, we could, but since this vendor's opted in for ACH, we're going to default it as ACH. We've uploaded that. We're good to process in GP, and that entire payment batch has now been uploaded for approval and then disbursement on our end. So if I flip back over to Fidesic, I can see that I've got a whole bunch of payments that I need to approve as a user. Since I'm the controller, everything needs to go through me. If I just want to batch approve everything, I can certainly do so. I can just go ahead, select everything, and then approve all selected. All of those will go into a processing queue, so that will initiate the fulfillment. If I want any more info on any of these payments, let's check out the one that we just uploaded here. We can hit view payment. This will show you what invoice or invoices are being paid. It'll hyperlink you back to the original document so we can see my approval notes. We can see the original scan. That's all going to be available to you while you're making your approvals. And once I actually make my approval here, that's going to go into our disbursement queue. So what that means is on the banking side of our site, I had you pick your checkbook ID in GP that you wanted to pay out of, and then we'll also have that available to us here. And this is how we're going to disperse these payments. So we will generate the notcha file. We will deliver that to your bank in a secure manner. All that's going to take place automatically. We don't have to have a person doing that at any point. So point one for this is, we have the approval workflow. Point two, it's one less thing for your staff to manage. They don't have to go through and actually do the processing. And probably the most important point is that it's handled in a much more secure manner than stock ACH processing in GP. We're actually going to only have that file in an encrypted format, and we're only going to deliver that file to your bank over an encrypted connection. So the file is secure end to end. We'll get it directly to the bank, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same process that your bank is used to, where you are the one actually issuing the payments that are going to go directly to the vendor. So if you're already doing ACH in a less secure way, it's still going to feel and operate the same, but we're going to help you do it in a more secure manner. If you want, we also do paper check fulfillment, so we can print and mail that for you. Just like ACH, at the end of the day, it's still going to be coming out of your bank account directly. We're just handling the processing side of it to make it easier. And your bank rec process will be the same, if not a little bit better. And another thing of note on here is we do also support delivery of positive pay files automatically as well. So those positive pay files can be delivered to your bank automatically. You won't have to generate them. We'll generate them and send them to your bank. And the other key thing of note on this is since vendors are going to be opting in for ACH using our portal, once they've opted in, we're automatically going to flip that over to ACH the next time that you pay that vendor. You don't have to pay attention to that in GP. We're just going to flip those payments automatically for you. So the road to get vendors to opt in for ACH over time is pretty straightforward. They can use that vendor portal, keep opting in for ACH, and you're gradually going to transition to a paperless payments process. But of course, we'll be happy to take care of those remaining paper checks for as long as you need. I will note, if you want to reach out to us, definitely do so. We're always happy to schedule a custom demo focused on your specific needs.